Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to Sister Table Talk. Listen, I am your host, Monique Denton Davis, founder and CEO of Embrace Your Cake and also Sisters Inspire Sisters. I am super excited about our guest tonight. We have the one and only, and listen, this topic tonight is juicy, okay? Not just on a personal development level, but also on a professional development level. Not only are we talking organizational leadership in small businesses, we are talking about the different challenges that small businesses and leaders in small businesses face through a pandemic. What I want to do is thank you so much for joining Sister Table Talk. Listen, Sisters Inspire Sisters is all about wealth, it's all about wellness, it's all about financial responsibility, it is all about leadership, entrepreneurship, and being able to educate one another. It is sisters coming together to move forward an agenda for us to continue to empower and to motivate. We will be 1,000. Okay, I was gonna say 100, but let me just keep it all the way. This is what we're doing in 2022. Okay, 2022 is loading, but we have already started. We will be 1,000 members that will empower 1 million women globally. 1 million women of color. This is our goal. This is how we're moving. This is how we're starting 2022. We are here to share information. We're here to share resources. And listen, without further ado, I need to turn it over to the phenomenal, one of our sister network members, but the phenomenal Dr. Juanita Foster. Listen, welcome.
Thank you.
For saying yes. Thank you for being a member of the sisterhood. Dr. Juanita, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and what made you start your organization that you have?
Okay, my name is Dr. Juanita, and I'm a native of Delaware all my life, a mommy of 3, and a grandmommy of 3 as well. I have a doctorate degree in organizational leadership. We have a family business that's been in business for 30 years, and in the education field, I've been in the medical field for more than 20 years. I've been training, teaching, mentoring, coaching for free and paid for
Yes.
about 20 years as well. And so, what I do is I help businesses and leaders and business women and grow themselves, grow their business, make consistent revenue inside of their business with their consistent thoughts. I do a lot of mindset work. And the reason why I start my business, twofold really. One, started out in the education field. As you and I said, we've been in daycare now. We have a preschool. I kind of pause when it says daycare because it's not daycare.
That's
Caring
right.
for children is child care.
Yes,
For
it
real,
is
for real.
early childhood education because there is curriculum, okay, that's attached. So we're not going to even get into that yet. Right.
Exactly. So,
Right.
and then, so I started that with helping my mother and the family and helping other care providers to grow and lead well. And because what I say, how you lead you, and then you are the first person you lead, does affect the bottom line of your business, affects your team members. So educate is for education, the education side in me, and for motivate to be able to motivate leaders and motivate business owners to keep going when it's hard, when it's rough, and to elevate them, just like you were saying, 1,000 women, to elevate them to the next level in order for them to leave a legacy. So that's the name of the business. That's why I started the business, and that's me.
Listen, I absolutely love it. And every time you said 20 years, I'm like, 20 years. See, this is what happens with sisters, right? Because I'm like, there is no way that you've been doing this for 20 years. I don't see the 20-year look at all. Okay. There is nothing about you that says that you've been doing this for 20 years. But I want to thank you and I commend you first for the family business. Those ages 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, those are critical ages,
Yes.
critical in the development in our children and how they will become, what type of human beings that they're going to become in the world, how they're going to show up. So I want to thank you for that. And when we have professionals in the field, I have 2 grandchildren. So shout out to all the grandmas. Okay. Not only that, Delaware is also where my daughter lives and my son-in-law and my 2 grandchildren. So I absolutely listen, I'm down that Jersey Turnpike all the time, all the time. So I just want to commend you for being in that field. And then organizational leadership. So for those that aren't that familiar with organizational leadership, could you tell us a little bit about what that is? What does that mean, organizational leadership to an organization? And what's the difference then from organizational leadership to just leadership or executive leadership? What's the difference?
Well, the difference is being an organizational leader, you help set the goals and the procedure and the policies of the business itself, almost like the core and the foundation of the business. And then you help manage those to reach those strategic goals. So that's the difference. Being a leader, you less, I'm not gonna say you just walk in, but as a leader, you might lead your team, your team or your department or your line. Whereas though, so that's really the difference. And you groom a leader. You can apply for the job to be a leader. You can apply for a job to be an organizational leader, but you're looking at the entire organization, and you're looking at all the goals, the mission, the vision of the entire organization, as opposed to a leader just looking at their particular development or their team, their particular department or team.
And that's so on point. And so there is organizational leadership encompasses so much. And when you look at keeping the mission and the vision of the organization intact, as well as you have to look at the employees, right? You have to look at the structure. You're also looking at business and you're looking at the financial aspect of it. Now, there are, and especially now, it's not the rebirth of the pandemic because the pandemic actually never ended. But we feel it feels right now like we're in the middle of a rebirth. Things kind of got quiet for a little while and
Mhm.
things were going well. And everyone's getting vaccinated and we're like, yes, doing everything that we could do to prepare ourselves and respond. But for an organization, especially a small business, what challenges has the pandemic brought to you? And then, how have you tackled those challenges?
The number one, of course, back in March, closed.
Yes.
100% closed down. And so thankfully, the way our business is currently structured, it's my mother, we retired her, my sister who runs it, and then myself. I was in full-time business, but I left my job when I turned 50. Yes, I'm 50.
Stop it.
I have 2 children in their 30s. So my oldest sister turned 35 on Sunday. So
Love it.
since then I left. So it's us working together. So it closed.
Mm,
And so managing, making sure the building was safe. You still have to pay bills, even in the pandemic as a business owner, and still being able to fully pay your staff. So once we came out of the pandemic, and unfortunately, one of the children came with COVID, so we had to shut down a smaller site. We are a multi-site. We have infants to
right.
2, 3, or potty train, and then they go to the preschool. So we have an infant site and a preschool site. And in the midst of that, as we did everything, we get up and running, just like you said. And then, unfortunately, we have some more COVID issues.
Yeah.
So, what it looks like for an organizational leader, you're still looking at your bottom line. You're looking at how money coming in. You're looking at where the money's going. And in Delaware, as I tell people, we don't have to provide benefits. So you're looking at, okay, if I don't provide benefits, am I going to lay my team off? Is my team going to come back when
Right.
it's time to come back? Because as you see the statistics, more people are deciding to stay home than coming
Absolutely.
back to work. And some of it is a decision. Some of it, fortunately, you may not be able to go back to work. And but however, we did have some people who worked in the hospital, so 2 days a week. Once we were able to open up for those who had to go to work, we were able to still give their children them care, so they felt safe to be able to go to work because they cared for the sick and they was in the thick of it while their children still came to the center. So as we're growing, we were able to pay our staff, still able right now. One of the sites is closed and it's going to be open on Monday. However, still being able to pay them. And as we're going forward, we're having discussions
Mm-hmm.
because you need to have a discussion. And that is what's challenging about all small businesses. You getting vaccinated or not, it's a personal choice. However, in the childcare field, you have to be vaccinated. That's what they're telling us. And if you choose not to, then we have to have a conversation with where your next step is going to be and what paperwork we need to fill out to, to you to move on.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's the nature of the business when we're in this business. So, and then as we go into, like, my new thing in the preschool is mask up, mask up.
That's
Because the
right.
little kids are walking around with masks out here. I'm like, mask up.
Right. Exactly.
And we have to instill it in them. Uh, somebody came to the center today, and I was like, "Bring your mask." But we have masks, but I just was like, "Bring your mask." But she's
Right.
like, "My mom said we can y'all have masks in here," but we do. So just really, not just the children, but the staff. It is very important because, as like you said, it is a resurgence. People got vaccinated or you didn't get vaccinated, and as people got lax, so that's another thing.
Exactly.
Reinforcing the policies and procedures and making new policies and procedures. And as a leader, we have to do that. It's imperative because not just for the health and safety of us, it's for the health and safety of those we serve.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't, if your business closes for 2 weeks because you're and 50% of your team has COVID and you have to pay for the cleaners to come in. And
Yes.
and so if you don't offer the benefits of PTO, well, paid time leave, of, let me say it right, the full name, paid time leave, sick leave, or
Right.
family leave, or anything like that, they're still going to be expected to get paid. But you're looking like, wait a minute, I may not get all of my income coming in because we have COVID.
Exactly. Now, you said two things, and I want to back up a little bit because I think it's important, especially being in an organizational leadership role. When you said the first time that you shut down in March, when you had to shut down, you were able to still pay your employees. Now, a lot of businesses weren't able to do that, and a lot of businesses shut down and weren't able to reopen. So, how were you able to maintain that payroll? Okay, pay those staff, and then how were you able to be one of those businesses that survived and that were able to reopen?
I'm gonna tell you straight up, the glory and honor of God, number one. I'm just gonna go there,
Right.
and that's number one. Number two is, um, my sister, who was phenomenal. She was on the phone because we had some of the kids. Well, a, a lot of them were our kids, our family. So some days they came here. Then I had to have my own grandkids here, so they were here, and she was on the phone with the state, with the governor, with Department of Education in Delaware. I'm from a government background, so I would say the acronym.
So you're gonna come with the acronyms, and I'm gonna have to say, wait a minute, Dr. Juanita.
I
Okay,
know that's why I have to stop.
so,
The Department of Education,
mhm,
child care, licensing, and they was getting and helping them and still giving them the money that they needed. So she was able to save some money. That's, you have a business, you need to make sure you have plan, a crisis plan, a
yeah,
succession plan, a crisis plan.
yeah,
So some of the money was already saved up. She might not have wanted to use it for salaries, but some of the money was saved up. And then they were still allowed to get some more money and funding and grants. So if there are grants out there, still getting those things. And so that allowed her to help keep her employees employed. So once we was able to restart, we still had income coming in, still had savings, and because being an organizational leader, you have to look at the financial side of it. So those were some of the things, the
So
reasons
that
why.
was definitely the when you talked about the crisis plan and the succession plan. And for those that might be listening to the broadcast, I hope that you're taking notes because first of all, Dr. Juanita talked about her sister who's a phenomenal businesswoman and how she got on the phone. Okay. Sometimes you have to pick up the phone. You know, we are in a society where we want to always communicate electronically. We want to send emails. Sometimes you have to, as a business owner, a small business owner, you have to pick up the phone and make those calls. Contacting the state officials, like you said, contacting the Board of Education, contacting licensing, and also finding out what types of resources are available. And then the other thing, and I hope everyone's listening because you see, I listen intently, and I had to put that in our chat when you talked about you must have a crisis plan and a succession plan. These things are not just for large businesses. These things are for small businesses as well. So tell us a little bit about what is a crisis plan and what is a succession plan.
A crisis plan, and mainly if something happens to your business and it's shut down, and that's not let's just not say the pandemic. Let's go back to if it's a tornado or earthquake
Yeah.
and you need to shelter in place, or you need to contact people, or you are on a field trip and you can't get back to where you to your business because of something happened. So being able to have first aid, 3 days worth of food, milk for the children, being able to say who are we going to call, how are we going to call them, if it's medication. That's like a physical crisis plan. But also a paper or document one is, where's your insurance information, where's your license or your mortgage deed, where's, if you have life insurance, unfortunately people die who are the owners of the business, what do you have, a will, do you have all of these, this written plan in place, and is it in more than one location than just your home or just the business itself. And
Awesome.
then a succession plan is who you going to get to lead, or who are you bringing behind you? Who are you grooming? We're currently grooming my niece and another. We have two people that we're grooming right now who wants to take over the business, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a family member. The other person is not a family member, but they love the kids, love her, and she loves the business and she wants to learn. So grooming that other person in order for them to take over business. Unfortunately, I know of a family who the matriarch passed and no one knew about the business. So
Wow.
guess what happened to the business?
Business closed.
It closed because of the fact that no one else knew about the business, and no one else, I'm just saying no one else knew, not saying they didn't care, but I'm just saying no one else knew the
Right.
ins and the outs. Like I know the ins and the outs.
So this is good. All right. And I get excited. So here, this is where my HR background comes in. And then also being a business owner, because I hope that even those that listen to the replay, business owners are taking notes. What is phenomenal about what you're doing and the business is that oftentimes we have a crisis plan, and some of those businesses that receive federal funding and state funding, some of these things are a requirement. But to have a crisis plan and a succession plan, and then have those documents available where you put them into action. It's one thing to have a succession plan, but if you have it just written down and you're not putting it into action, you're not preparing those next leaders of the organization. So to
Exactly.
hear that not only do you have the document, that you've also put it into action. And you talked about life insurance, you talked about a will, and these are all things that small business owners have to take into consideration, and all things that impact the bottom line. Now, organizational leadership, and I know especially in a family business, right? So that's a whole nother show when we talk about family business, because that's interesting. Like, I want some information. I want to know, like, how many family members, how many generations, how have y'all been able to hold this together, and how do y'all work together? But
How
like,
many times we don't fired somebody that's in the family, came, quit, walked off on
fired and rehired, right? Like, listen. So I though that dynamic alone, I would really love to talk about that. But in your role as an organizational leader, let's talk to some of the women out there that might be interested in these roles. Tell me a little bit about mindset. And also, the name of your business is your Educate, Motivate, Elevate Consulting LLC. Let's talk about the mindset that you need to have to be in these type of leadership positions in an organization. You know, everybody can't do it.
it.
Right. So yeah, what is it? What does it take?
It's the number one thing that I have to say is you are the thinker of your thoughts. And you don't have to take every thought that you think. And I do a lot of self-coaching on myself. And what I do is called I call it it's called a model. And the C is the circumstance, the pandemic. Someone didn't want to come to work. Someone came late. What do I think about that? Which is the T. It's called the CTFAR. That's the model. The C is the circumstance. The T stands for thoughts. The F stands for feelings. The A stands for actions, and the R stands for results. So, for example, someone doesn't want to come to work. They don't want to get vaccinated. Um, you they decide to go up on your rent or your mortgage. Anything, any part of the business, anything in your life. What are my thoughts about that? I can take the thought that, oh, this happens to everybody, but your circumstance is neutral. It is not a fact. If not all 7.5 billion people on the planet can agree,
Mm-hmm.
then it's not a fact. Now, if they say your rent was raised or you lost two children and that's going to affect your bottom line, you lost two children because it may not even affect your bottom line. You two children decided not to come back to the center.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they can agree to that. That's a fact. But you have to what do you think about that? You could think that my business gonna go down, or you could think that it's gonna bless me. It's giving me an opportunity to open up space for another two people.
Mm-hmm.
And how you feel about that. Feel at peace, love. You can feel joy or excitement or delighted. I get to serve another family. And how are you going to do your A for your actions? Promote, show love to the family that left, maybe do some promotion, marketing. You if you do it right, you have a waiting list. Call the next
Absolutely.
person on your waiting list.
That's right.
And what is your results? Your thoughts leave your results. So what we think, everything that we can see around that's happening in our life, our personal life, our business life, our financial life, our love life is from our thoughts. We could change our thoughts. We
Mm-hmm.
could change what we see. Dr. Carolyn Leaf, I follow her. She says she's a Christian neuroscientist. She said you can actually change the grooves in your brain by your thoughts. So terminating the past.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the examples I want to give you, somebody said, oh, this always happened. This always happened. Well, guess what happens? Something bad is always happening.
That's
And
right.
and if you are
You're
looking
putting it out there. That's right.
exactly, and if you are looking, so when you think celebrate my wins, I celebrate my wins every day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have a lot of them. So the more I celebrate my win, like having this interview with you today, you're my win today. You was my win yesterday, you're my win today. And so celebrating that win, getting to spend time with my granddaughter, celebrating that win.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more wins I celebrate, my brain automatically starts looking for that win. When you go say, oh, I like a red Malibu, and I want that's gonna be my next car. Guess how many times you see a red Malibu?
Right.
It is the same thing when you're functionally taking your mind there. Another thing, this is the advice I give to my family, my kids who come from me for advice. What
Mhm.
happens on that in your home when you step into your job,
Mhm.
that is not that's your job, even when you're working with family. A leader have to have emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Listen, you beat me to the question because that's to say EQ is running all through
EQ,
my
look,
mind. I'm like, okay, so yeah,
EQ is my thing. He look, I got a couple books back there from
listen,
Daniel Coleman.
yes,
So
can we talk about it quickly? And I know that and I knew this was gonna happen with this conversation. That's why it has to be a part two. But can we just talk a little bit about the importance of emotional intelligence, especially in an organizational leadership role, in a leadership role in general? But how important is that? And then for those that aren't familiar with it, what is it?
it's your ability. Now, I haven't said the definition in a long time. It's your ability to be able to really take your emotions out of it. Not so much that you say the house is on fire or the building's on fire. I don't care, but not be so charged. Like when I was saying, the circumstance is neutral. When you start giving your feelings and making that have something in your body, causing you having an emotion, your emotional intelligence is you need to work on it. So
Yes.
being able to look at a circumstance and say, I'm not going to let this circumstance take me. I was going to use another word, the ladder inference, take me up here and make me mad. It's called the ladder inference. And so that is what basically emotional intelligence is. A lot of times people see it and they think about, wow, they don't care. They not, no, it's not that. It's just that as a leader, you got to be thinking about things so fast that you can't just get stuck in one area.
Mhm.
And that one of the things I like was the gymnast from this year.
Simone Biles.
Thank you. And I teach kids in our school, and we did. One of the things she showed true leadership. I don't care what people say, and
That's
she
right.
showed emotional intelligence because she was saying that she was having a mental health crisis, and
Mhm.
she wanted to be in a mental state that did not affect the whole team. So
Right.
she stepped back, and no one she led from behind the scenes. Good leaders can lead from behind the scenes, and they can lead in a way that those behind them are able to take up the
Yeah.
mantle, because I have to be up here somewhere looking at everything while I'm still managing, putting out fires, managing people, different personalities. Can't get caught up in other people's personalities, because once you do that, you fall into their model and not your own.
Absolutely. So listen, there was so many good things, and I want to recap, but we talked about the crisis plan, succession plan, organizational leadership, how the organizational leader is responsible for overseeing and bringing together all areas of the business. Um, and in the same token, carrying out the mission and the vision, making sure that that's done. You talked about the mindset that organizational leaders have to have, that emotional intelligence. And what was so key when you talked about being the thinker of your thoughts, and also being able to differentiate your thoughts and how you respond, and also those things that are factual and those things that you think about that may not be factual, but those are your thoughts. And then how do you manage those? And then when you talked about the mindset and you talked about shift, being able to take something that might be viewed as negative and viewing it as a positive. Okay, we lost two in our enrollment. Now, how are we going? What actions are we going to take to fill? We can get referrals. We can thank those family members. There's different things that we can do, and those are things that great organizational leaders do. So I hope that everyone watching this had out their pen, had out their paper, took some notes. This is probably going to be part one of a part four conversation, because we have to get into managing. We didn't even get down into the nitty gritty of
Yeah.
managing people. Listen, we have to talk about finances, we have to talk about staff, and we talked about the pandemic. But before I go, what has been in your business the greatest challenge? What do you think has been the greatest challenge that the pandemic has brought to the company? And then how were you able to manage that challenge?
Probably mask up with the little kids, but um,
That is, you know what? That is so, that's important, right? Especially right now. And I can't even imagine having to get, I have difficulty at work with the adults. Okay. So I can imagine how challenging it is with adults and with children saying, okay, we got to mask up.
mask up. And that I said that's gonna be they're gonna get an award for mask for having mask up. That's what I'm giving them. Um, Communicating to the parents the importance of not sending your children when they don't feel well. And although, they had that big thing, little kids don't get sick, well, they do. In understanding when you take Johnny to here and there and somewhere else and they may be sick, think about that when you send them to the preschool, when you send them to the
Yeah.
daycare, and how I have an older mother and an aunt, and I know I like to be with them. We're together a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so look at those things. And I think communication has been a big thing because there's so many different things, personal choices, religious, how you feel about mask or not being masked, vaccinated or not being vaccinated. But look at it when you have to take your child somewhere. We're caring for the future.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Absolutely. And you know, Dr. Juanita, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. And one of the biggest takeaways, and I talked about a lot of different takeaways. One of the biggest takeaways is something that you just said, which is so key. And it is, if you're not feeling well, and this day and age, if you're not feeling well, forget about, okay, I got to get the job done. I have to do this. There are lives at stake. And if you're not feeling well, and if your children aren't feeling well, don't send them to school. And that's one of the things we reiterate. We actually sent a memo out today reiterated, if you're not feeling well, please stay home. Stay home. So if you're not feeling well, do not go to work for those listeners, okay? Don't go to work. If your children aren't feeling well, please keep them home. Do everything that we can do to continue to stay safe, to mitigate the spread. And as Dr. Juanita said, wear your mask. Look, hashtag mask up. Okay, mask up. We gotta get some t-shirts that say hashtag mask up. Mask up in this pandemic because your life, our life depends on it.
Exactly.
It depends on how well we take care of ourselves and we take care of each other. Dr. Juanita, you are the best.
Thank you. Thank you
I'm
so
so
much.
happy that you are part of Sisters Inspire Sisters. I can't wait to have part 2, part 3, and part 4 of this conversation.
Yes.
I want to wish you and your family happy holidays and a Merry Christmas. If we don't talk before, happy Kwanzaa.
Yes.
And I definitely would love for you to come back. So we have to talk behind the scenes to get some dates together. And before we leave, can you please just tell us, because I know you're in Delaware, what is the name of the daycare?
Junebug's Little Rubies. It's named after my uncle who passed, my uncle and my grandmother. Junebug's Little Rubies Daycare and Junebug's Little Rubies Preschool.
Junebug's Little Rubies.
And we are taking children.
Excellent. Listen, we're going to have to put that in the chat.
We are a 3 and a 4-star rated. 5 is the most stars you can have in Delaware. And let me put my hand over here. 5 is the most stars. We are a 3 and a 4-star rated. So,
that is excellent. And now, what part of Delaware are you in?
Wilmington, Delaware, right outskirts by Newcastle, but Wilmington, Delaware.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Listen, enrollment is open, okay? And we're talking about 4 stars, okay? Yes. And in Delaware, the highest is 5. We're talking about 4 stars, early childhood education. There has been an example of the leadership here on this show. Look, you see how important it is for the children to wear their masks, and you see the importance of how the executive team is in this business, so you know that the care and the education that your children will get is stellar. Dr. Juanita, thank you so much. Thank you. I will talk to you soon, sis. Thank you for being a guest. This was absolutely wonderful, and I can't wait till we chat again.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.